So I received a message an hour and a half ago from some random person, and this is the message I've received.
There's been a couple times so far on the trip where I was pretty certain that the whole thing was going to end. Right now, Riley is 39 kilometers away from us. We have no idea how we're going to find him again, and generally it's all a bit shit right now. I mean, the fact that you're watching this video probably means that we have somehow figured it out, but I don't know. It's all a bit silly right now. Enjoy the episode.
So, by the end of week 7, we were in a bit of a shit situation. But, at the start of week 7, things were looking both daunting and exhilarating. Most notably, the mountains had arrived. Now, perspective is important. If we were Australian Tour de France winner Cadel Evans, the upcoming thousands of metres of elevation isn't that daunting. But, we are not 2011 Tour de France winner Cadel Evans.
Oh, I mean militar. I assume that means military.
Let's go the other way.
To give us some credit, the entire tour had kind of been leading towards entering the Dolomites. So there was also this hope that our legs were now strong enough to take on all the climbs. But first, to start it all off, we'd have the pleasure of entering our 7th country of the tour, Italy.
Pretty on brand. We crossed the border, no idea.
We actually crossed the border. Yeah, well and truly.
Yeah, we are well truly in Italy.
Oh, what the fuck?
And hey, we met some famous Italians instantly.
Holy shit, it's Nonna from On Track, Christian Petrarca.
For any tennis fans watching along, we rode through Yannick Sinner's hometown. Unfortunately, he wasn't home to see his long-lost twin. But, as nice of a town as it was, we preferably wanted to get a move on towards the mountains. But rain was falling for the time being, so to make extra use of the time, we took a moment to plan our exact route through the Dolomites. The standout town on the way for us seemed to be Cortina d'Ampezzo. I don't really know how to say the full thing, but basically, it was a small town that actually has a lot of historic significance in the Dolomites, and it hadn't just hosted many notable figures throughout history, but coming up it was going to be hosting the 2026 Winter Olympics. So the plan now was to make it there by the end of the day, but the rain was seriously showing no signs of slowing down. At least the rain helped the mountains look unbelievable. But we quickly realised that regardless of the rain, if we wanted to make any progress that day, we'd have to get moving. So there was more than a few hours of me hating bike riding.
Where's all the damn sunshine, Italy?
It was hard to keep the mood down for too long with the damn views though. Like literally, what the hell? This place looked like Pandora or something. The least of our concerns at this point was finding somewhere to sleep for the night. We just wanted to get to Cortina. But hey, it's always good to have a backup plan.
Where are we just sleeping here?
Now I want to be very clear when I say we were joking about sleeping in this tunnel bridge. It looked dirty, exposed, uncomfortable, and worst of all, it was still 10 kilometers outside of Cortina at the top of a pretty decent climb. So yeah, on we forged into Cortina. It's difficult to describe how stunning of a town it was, but honestly, the funniest part for me was just how stylish everyone was looking. Like clearly, this was some sort of exclusive, high-class holiday town. And amongst all these sexy millionaires was the 3 of us on our bikes, looking and smelling like absolute shit. But we didn't have time to worry about that. We only had 2 priorities, food and shelter. Food was easy. After all, we were in Italy now, so that meant pizza. And yeah, it hit the spot. Next was finding somewhere to sleep. With our no paying for accommodation challenge still well and truly alive, we wanted to find a decent wild camping spot and preferably with some cover for the rain. But the more we thought about it though, the more we realised an upper class place like this probably wouldn't take too kindly to some homeless drifters. As things got later and our options got thinner, I seriously couldn't believe what option we ended up resorting to. Back up the hill we went.
I'm just so fucking done with this night riding bullshit. Not knowing where we're gonna sleep. Yeah, it's fun sometimes, not when I'm cold and we're about to sleep in a fucking tunnel or whatever the hell. What'd you say?
Not doing this fucking bullshit.
A flat tire for Kelly halfway up the hill added to the mood perfectly.
Here we are, back at our crack house of dreams.
Beyond the obvious luxuries we were dealing with of a dirty floor, rotten walls, and a decaying roof, as it also turns out, being high up in the mountains means it gets stupidly cold at night.
Fucking 0 degrees and basically just on a road.
I don't think I'm going to sleep.
This isn't camping, this is
Just survival. We don't even have any milker.
The ground is just so soggy, there's bugs everywhere. It's an old road, so we kind of thought there's a chance a car might come up and run us over.
I'd be honestly happy just to take the risk and find some flat bit of forest and set up my tent.
What? The night's done. What do you mean find forest? It's too late.
We've made our bed. We're gonna sleep in it.
You did a fucking 400 incline.
So once again, our challenge that is forcing us to be able to sleep anywhere had put us in a bit of an interesting situation. However, the thing is with being able to fall asleep anywhere, it also means you get to wake up anywhere.
It was a pretty lovely spot though. Like, I mean, in the middle of the Dolomites, just being able to sleep on the side of the road, it was pretty cool to wake up to.
So we wanted to make the most of our time in Cortina. We'd done a mini via ferrata the week before, so we were keen to try the real thing in the Dolomites. So we planned to rent some gear and head on out. But we hit a delay right away. Kelly's flat tyre from the night before still wasn't fixed. Now, it should have been an easy fix-up, but his tyre was wedged on so tight that I feel like we spent the next 30 minutes trying to wrestle it off.
Tried getting the tyre off, but it was absolutely fucked. We couldn't pop off the actual tyre to get the tube off, and I think it took all 3 of us standing on it.
There's definitely some sort of joke available here about how many idiots does it take to use a lever. And 3. 3's the answer, along with a lot of sweat.
Come on, let's go! Oh yes! Let's fucking go!
Kelly's tyre was a bit fucked. It took us ages to get that off. But eventually we did, obviously. It was fine.
So, we rode back into town and grabbed a coffee.
Milker product number 67.
They skipped normal wafers and went straight to mini.
Rating?
Put me on the spot. I'd say 7.6.
7.6. That's like a 7.6 in Milker standards compared to any other regular food.
Oh, it's like a 10.
It's 10. It's a 10.
Yeah. Don't know what this is.
Wow. And
They've even got games on the back.
So, we are here. Well, she picked out the 2 easy ones to do since we've never done them before.
yeah.
That one's probably better for beginners and it has good waterfall. That one has better views and there's 2.
I've heard that one then. And what's this one circled?
That one was, and then I said we're on a bike and then she said nope.
My experience with climbing is pretty limited at this point, and well, it's pretty limited after this point as well, but I was pretty nervous going in. I kind of thought a Via Ferrata was just us boys getting a couple harnesses and going up a cliff face when it's been pouring rain the last 2 days, and I was pretty nervous about the whole thing, but I managed to get convinced to go because we do some easy ones first.
So this is our slab of rock to conquer. How are you feeling, Kelly?
Oh, the nervous poos are coming.
Yeah, you have the low angle.
You're wearing an helmet.
So, a Via Ferrata was a new thing for all of us, but he was definitely the one pushing his comfort zone the most. So, once we got going, it was a bit like, oh shit, we're about to deal with a big moment. And honestly, it turned out to be smooth sailing.
And I'm very fucking glad that the boys convinced me to do it because it was honestly one of the best things of the trip.
So yeah, it's something a bit different climbing up these rock faces, but there was no real scary moments, just incredible views. So because of this, I highly recommend trying a Via Ferrata, especially in Cortina. And shout out to you, Kelly, for getting through it.
In the end, he was fine. I think we all enjoyed that so much that we then planned to stay another day and do another Via Ferrata the next day.
The descent was honestly more effort than the climb, especially for Riley after he claimed he found a shortcut to get back to where we left our bags.
The prodigal son returns.
Told you I had him.
I'm one climb closer to being Alex Honnold.
So it was beautiful, of course, to roll back into town, but after a day of effort, we needed food. So we smashed some more pizza. But importantly, after sleeping off grid for a few nights, all our tech was out of charge. So we kindly asked if we could charge just a couple of things before unloading all of our gear at the restaurant. Huge shout out to Pizza Palace for keeping us alive. But we couldn't stay long enough to fully charge all of our gear, and we still had that problem where we hadn't showered.
The main priority, other than exploring Cortina and what's around it, was actually having a shower, because I think we're going on 3 or 4 days without actually cleaning ourselves, and we stunk terribly.
So we came up with a sneaky plan. There was a nearby campsite, and while we wouldn't actually want to set up camp in there, we figured we could sneak in and just get a shower and charge a few things quickly. Security was tight, but we figured as long as we didn't walk in with all our bikes and just went in one at a time, we'd just look like regular guests.
Then one comes back to me,
And then
I go in, the other one watches.
Yeah.
So there's 3 duties.
Yeah.
Watch here, watch electronics, and
Watch
shower.
shower.
Our knowledge with campsites, especially being from Australia, is that they're pretty open and pretty much anyone could waltz in confidently and go take a shower without anyone questioning a thing, because they're pretty chill over there. But Jesus Christ, the campsites in Cortina are like Alcatraz. They were genuinely impenetrable. I don't know what they were doing behind those gates, but the campsite that we went to was completely surrounded in 6-foot high fences, and the only way in was through a gate which was manned by a guy 24/7. We staked it out for about 30 minutes, maybe like an hour, and that guy didn't move one bit.
Only entry point is a fucking reception.
And they're there at 9:30 p.m.
Oh fuck, we don't need to shower that bad. Let's just fucking go back.
So we kind of gave up on that idea and just decided to stay stinky, which was, we were kind of used to it at this point, but it still kind of sucked, and it would have been a nice adventure trying to sneak into a place to get a shower.
But riding out there wasn't a total waste, because we spotted a soccer field nearby. So we just waited for the team to end their training, and boom, we had yet another strange but perfect place to sleep. So sometimes you wake up on a soccer pitch and have no idea that later on that day you'll rack up one of your life's biggest regrets. But that story can wait. First, we had a little morning adventure. After yesterday's Via Ferrata, we were hooked. You know that feeling of doing something new and immediately thinking, holy shit, when can I do that again? That's exactly what we felt. So, when we realised we'd slept right next to another Via Ferrata course and still had yesterday's gear with us, we parked our bikes at the first cafe we could find, along with leaving our tech to charge, and off we hiked. But a slight difference for today, this route was graded harder. Much harder.
Do you want to tell the audience what you just told me about the overhang and what you haven't told Kelly?
I saw pictures of like a pretty steep overhang. It's like very exposed. Basically like there's like limited foothold, and kind of hid those pictures away.
I was still nervous, of course, because we were going up to a more challenging climb, but I was still pretty keen to do it.
So, up we climbed. Riley and myself set a challenge to see who could go the longest without grabbing onto the assist wires. Like, we were still hooked in and whatnot, but we wanted to test our actual climbing techniques, which did make us feel a bit like Alex Honnold.
He gets there. Maybe. Clean. I think.
As for Kelly, I didn't really roll the camera during the exposed parts of the climb, but once again, he made it look easy. So he's kind of the perfect advertisement for trying something like this, even if you're not the biggest fan of heights.
That's where we're going.
I think in my mind it became very clear that I have a order of, things I enjoy in terms of outdoor mountain experience, and climbing or Via Ferrata is, I think, my number one way. Then it would be cycling, then hiking. Climbing was just so much more engaging, it was fun.
So yeah, when you put in the work, the payoff can sometimes be pretty cool. But once we reached the top, we hit a problem, getting down. The way down was completely different from the way up, so we were actually pretty stuck trying to figure out how to descend properly.
We can keep going this way, and I think this goes around.
But what ended up being our path? A steep, sketchy, scree-covered slope.
My knees are gonna love this.
Regardless of knee pain, it was actually pretty fun.
I'm a pimp, man, sleep, pimp, man.
Our ability to scree down so effectively might have had something to do with the pimp named Slickback trend, which, definitely shows that we're still young and hip with it.
Had the scree descent down the other side, which was all these really loose stones forming what looks like it is in a rock slide.
I figured out to scree, you just got to be in a constant state state of falling over.
I think it took me about half an hour to get there. Pretty sure there was a track that you can follow to get down, but I lost that instantly and I was just pretty much sliding the whole way down.
Bloody nice to see a normal path like that.
Eventually we made it down. Half the mountain, it felt like, was in our shoes, but attention quickly shifted. We had to move on. As much as we'd loved our past few days in Cortina, the tour needed to continue. Our aim was to ride 50 kilometers before finding camp, but daylight was fading fast, so we set off pretty quickly, hoping to squeeze in a couple of hours before sunset. That plan lasted all of about 10 minutes. Kelly had gotten another flat. Now this should have been a pretty easy fix, but the pump jammed onto the valve.
Big brain me was like, this pump is absolutely fucked. I'm not going to be able to get it off. I'm not going to be able to pump up the tire. So I'll just rip it off. So I ripped the pump off the valve and then the valve splits open, which in turn fucks the tube to the point where I can't get the tube out of the wheel. So the tube is now stuck in there with a bent valve and a flat tire.
So we were stuck there for just ages. We were trying everything. We were using tie levers, we were using pliers, brute force. Nothing worked. We just could not get this damn thing out. So eventually we turned to the only thing we had left, a little kitchen knife. But sawing through a metal valve with a blunt blade, mind you, completely lost in the middle of the Italian Alps, takes ages. Still, we didn't have a choice. So we sawed. Until finally, we got it free.
Let's go.
Understandably, we looked like three morons on the side of the road. So there was a biker that passed by and he pulled over and he said, "Are you fellas all right?" in like a really distinct Australian accent. But now that our bike was fixed after all that effort, we weren't really thinking straight, so we kind of just turned around and said, "Yep, thank you, we're all good." Gave him a little thumbs up. It was only at this moment, when turning around and saying that, I realised who we were talking to. Standing right in front of us was 2011 Tour de France winner Cadel Evans, Australia's only ever winner of the Tour de France. Now, when I say how I handled this situation is one of my life's biggest regrets, I genuinely mean it. Being legitimately shell-shocked, we kind of just sat there and stared at him for I don't even know how long. He stared back at us, gave us a nod of no problem, and rode on his way. All I have to show for this interaction is this shitty little video while he rode away in the distance. We checked his Instagram and sure enough he'd posted being in Cortina just a few days earlier. I was genuinely distraught for the next few days. What are the odds of 3 Australian bike tourers running into Cadel Evans in the middle of the Italian Alps? And I froze up. Fuck.
The day is pretty much done. We kind of need to find a place to sleep, but we also need food. So we ride in, get a quick meal.
I'm sure all that pizza gluten won't affect Riley, but anyways, after all this time we'd lost, now we really had to start riding.
Worst comes to worst, we can just venture into the forest and set up tents.
Yeah.
But it will be dark by that point, so we'll be very blind.
Second we find flat forest, we just go into it.
Alright, let's go forward.
As we said goodbye to the beautiful town of Cortina, we aimed to get at least 20 kilometres done before finding somewhere to sleep.
Goodbye, Cortina.
But then the first hill hit, and it was steep, and it sucked.
Oh, what the fuck? I'm never gonna fall off my bike.
Where's Cadel Evans when you need him?
So after 15 minutes of pushing our bike up, we realised we weren't going to cover any ground today. But now that it was dark, we needed to find somewhere to sleep. But most of all, I couldn't get the missed opportunity from earlier in the day off my mind.
Do you know who would have helped us in
far
this
is it?
situation?
You say Cadel Evans.
Cadel Evans would have helped us.
1.1k.
Oh.
I'm getting sick of Cadel Evans right now. Fuck, you reckon he goes over jumps with his baby in the back like that?
Probably just fucking backflips. He's Cadel Evans.
Maybe not.
He goes, get ready for a Cadel fucking flip, son. Is there any way we can remember which way it is back to the bikes?
No.
Okay.
What did you find up there?
There's one flat spot up there.
It's so exposed. That's like any car driving past is going to see my fuck off big tent.
Like there was a car that just came past before. So it takes all this like one
Snarky, narky.
snarky knock.
Yeah.
Unable to go forward and not wanting to lose our progress back down the hill, we only had one solution. Move like a couple steps off the road to the left and just sleep there, hoping for the best. I'll admit it did make me a little nervous being so exposed next to one of the only roads into Cortina, and knowing how strict police regulations are around here did give me some Netherlands flashbacks.
You gotta think positive and then you sleep positive.
G'day, boys. It's me, Cadel Evans.
Nah.
You boys looking for somewhere to sleep?
I've got my Cadel hut just up the road. And there's potatoes and rice in there.
Oh, yeah, don't forget my famous Cadel stew that's being cooked up right now.
Yep.
The secret ingredient, bike travellers. And then we go, yeah, all right, sounds all right. And then Cadel goes, don't know if you heard me there, secret ingredient, bike packers. Yeah, sounds all right. Sounds lovely. You guys, so you're fine with me eating one of you boys? Yeah, Kelly's be all right. And then you go, yeah, I don't mind. All right, sure. And Cadel goes, oh, I'm a bit Cadel stumped right now. But sure, come on in.
I really only do this for the fear factor.
But as rain began to fall, we couldn't dwell on the past much longer. So we got into our respective beds for some much needed rest. Coming up, I would have a pretty bad sleep, with heavy rain and uneven ground making for a pretty uncomfortable night. But then I heard what happened to Riley. So while some light passing rain was on the forecast, it ended up being basically an 8-hour downpour, soaking literally everything that we had. Which brings us over to the story of Riley.
Yeah, and I didn't even fucking put my rain cover on my fucking bag. Had to do that in like 3 a.m. Feel how wet that is. That's what I was sleeping in.
And for some additional context, about 4 weeks earlier in Germany, he'd realised that eating too much gluten caused him to be sick for a few days. And since entering Italy, we'd eaten basically nothing but pizza. But back to him sleeping in the open rain.
I had a rough night. That was one of the rougher nights. I didn't put up my bivvy once again. I've made that mistake a couple of times now. So I got wet, and then I started to feel really sick again. I think I may have overestimated once again how much gluten I could consume healthily. And I just remember feeling like this dreading feeling of like what I went through in Germany. I was like, I do not want to go through that for like 4 days again. And I was like, I couldn't think of what to do. And then I was like, fuck it. What if I do a tacky, get that shit out? So I get up in the rain, go behind a tree and start vomiting. And it works.
Oh, that is so rain.
But as I'm doing this, I hear this like kind of sound in the forest that I'm kind of like in the process of shoving my fingers down my throat. So maybe I'm not as aware as I should be. But I hear this kind of like animal coming through the forest, but it's completely dark, so I can't see a thing. But I hear it like making this like grunting animal noise. And I think I'm just kind of overwhelmed by the rain and the vomiting that I just don't care at this point. And I was like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So I just kind of stood there and I could hear it like trudging towards me, but then it kind of maybe went past maybe like 10 meters behind me and then kept going. And then upon reflection, when I was a bit more with it in the morning, I realized it must have been like a big pig or a boar. I don't know. I'm not sure what Italy has. One of those things.
Quickly interrupting his story to say that I've researched it since then, and there's a very good chance that given where we were, that was a brown bear that came past. And all he had to defend himself was a stick. So really, that story could have gone a whole lot worse. Anyways, back to Riley.
But yeah, then woke up the next day absolutely soaked.
Oh, bro. That is just wet.
Riley has worst sleep ever, ? That pretty much sums it up. The funny thing about it all was that he seemed absolutely fine with the situation. Like, he told us the story and he just didn't bat a single eye. So I think Riley's either hit his breaking point of the trip or he's just the most relaxed person I've ever met in my life.
But it did make our first priority quite clear. Find somewhere to lay out all our stuff and let it dry.
The whole shirt's fucked. Oh. How do I even get this out? Now it's a tie-dye. Don't know where the other two went, but found the most perfect breakfast spot possible.
We rode to a little lake cafe, which was actually really pretty. Luckily, it was sunny the next day. And I just wanted to get everything dry. I just wanted to feel safe again, you know? We sat out next to this lake and laid out all of our shit and dried it, which made me just feel less stressed, maybe. Because it is kind of stressful when I guess you know everything's like tucked away into your bag and it's all just sopping wet. So that felt better.
But as it turns out, things don't dry instantly. So we had some time to kill in this Dolomitan purgatory vibed spot.
After last night's ride up the hill, I've decided to change the positioning of my drink bottles to try and get as much weight to the front as possible, because we're pretty much doing wheelies all the way up that hill.
Our first bit of advice for people. In fact, if you're watching this video at all for advice,
Don't turn it off.
really the best advice we can give is just do everything the opposite of how we've done it, and you'll probably have a successful bike tour.
So, as with most spare time on this tour, it was the perfect opportunity to send out some hopeful messages on warm showers. And just our luck, our hopes were answered. The wonderful Ivano told us we could come by when we were in Trento the next day. But back to today. Things were dry, so it was time to take our sleep-deprived bodies back for more riding.
We get blessed with the future warm showers, which is beautiful because we are stinky, and we have a nice little climb.
No!
As has been the case with riding in the Dolomites, riding meant climbing. So climb we did.
Where'd all the time go? It's starting to fly.
While I can admit it wasn't exactly easy, I can take some pride in how much more capable we all were at taking on these inclines now. Only 7 weeks ago, riding on flat paths with my 20 kilos of gear was exhausting enough. So to now take on thousands of meters of elevation daily with no hesitation was pretty cool. But pride wasn't the only cool thing. The peak is what it was all about. And low-key, I feel like there was some sort of Wes Anderson vibes going on at the top there.
Now she's walking backward through a parade.
At the top of it, there was a restaurant which had no food, which is pretty typical for us. So we kind of just had a cake and just put up with it, I think.
But we had a much more exciting thing to enjoy, the reward of the downhill. But not before my first major crash of the tour.
She gets dressed up like a pillow, so she's always in bed. Flowers for the sick and dead. She's on the go, way too fast and way too slow.
Okay, so actually onto the downhill. The speed was insane, and the hairpin corners to go with it only added to the adrenaline.
It was a lot of fun. Like the descents in Italy were maybe a bit busier, a lot busier. There were so many cars on the road, but because of how like windy and bendy the roads were, the cars were kind of going slower than I was on my bike, so it felt cool to actually overtake a couple of cars.
O'Reilly!
Reaching the bottom, we arrived in another gorgeous small Italian town. But our favourite part was seeing a sign at a roundabout telling people to use their indicator, and still, I swear not a single car would use theirs. Enjoying some Italian spaghetti was a must, but the only option was this super fancy fine dining spot, so we felt a bit out of place. Fine dining means small serving sizes, so a quick grocery pit stop eased our hunger. But now onto the stressful part of every day, finding somewhere to sleep, which was actually surprisingly difficult despite all the amazing nature around us. After an hour or so of pedaling, Riley pulled over because he thought he found a little spot to sleep. But I'm gonna be honest, it was a pretty odd choice.
It's a bit of a shit factory, but I think it could be done.
Why? What's the good and what's the bad?
The bad is there's toilet paper everywhere.
Oh, so it's literally...
I'm not kidding, it's a shit factory up there.
Why would we consider sleeping there?
Because, I don't know, where else have we got?
And then we came across this forest which was destroyed in a storm not too long ago, and it was kind of preserved, but we looked a bit deeper and it was really quiet, and there was just toilet paper everywhere. So we kind of coined the name Poo Forest for this place that we're about to sleep, because it just seemed like the whole town collectively decided to shit in this one spot and not use any toilets. I'm not too sure what was going on, but there was genuinely toilet paper everywhere. But beautiful forest, great town.
So, with no better choice, we trudged through all the poop tissues and settled down to call it a night. So what felt like flat tire number 100 of the trip gave us a nice little pit stop before our final ascent of the Dolomites. The flat was annoying, but I do take some pride in how quick I can change them now.
Oh, there goes Vinny with the overtake.
I'm sure there's a clever pun here for going from fixing a flat to going up something that isn't, but I can't think of one, so let's just get onto the cool stuff. As I'd explained yesterday, these hills were tough, but by now, so were our legs.
I sort of look back on the days in France or Prague or wherever we'd have these big hills and I would just complain. But in the back of my mind, I always knew we'd get to Italy and it would just be next level. And I sort of just do it. Still sucks and hurts, but doing it.
And it was the highest peak of our whole trip. I was bottom gearing the whole time. I think I was going about 4 kilometers an hour. I had cars and bikes overtake me the whole way up, and it was just genuinely such a big slog, but I just locked in for the whole thing and just burned through it. I was extremely proud and happy. I'm sure the other boys were, but this was kind of what the whole trip was for me. This massive challenge in Italy, trying to climb up these huge mountains. And it makes me really glad that I said yes to actually going on this trip, because I know I jumped onto it pretty quickly when Vincent threw the idea in my face, but I was pretty nervous and I really didn't think, especially through those first few hills in France, I didn't think that I'd actually be able to climb up these mountains. I think I remember in Germany preparing myself to look for train rides to try and get around them and skip the whole thing, but I kind of got to the base of the mountains and I just locked in and slogged it out. It didn't matter how slow I was, it didn't matter how long it took. I kind of just put my head down and got stuck into it, and I'm really thankful I did, because it was such a fun experience doing it, and it's always good to challenge yourself. We got to the top and it was such a relief when we finally got there. It was just a massive weight off my shoulders when I got up there, and the relief was unbelievable, but I was genuinely on cloud 9. I was so happy that we had done it.
This final Dolomitan climb was special, not just for how beautiful it was, but the fact that it was culminating to the highest peak we'd have for the whole tour. It was a perfect symbol of all the progress we'd achieved this far.
How the fuck did we get here? We're in the wheat fields in France like a week ago.
But we couldn't indulge in our own achievements for too long. After all, we had the excitement of our warm showers host to look forward to. And thanks to starting all the way in the clouds, we had an express downhill to get us there.
The main thing was that juicy downhill afterwards, and Jesus Christ, it was unbelievable. It was so nice. Getting down the mountain was just such a breeze.
We are completely stuck in traffic, and I didn't realise how much slower cars were at doing these mountains. So it's a bit frustrating, because this is, I think, the last one I'll get to do for the whole trip. But I'm not going to let it ruin it. This is pretty fucking incredible.
The descent was obviously fun, but following the river into Trento was the real pleasure. It was simply stunning along there.
Riding into the next town was just this long, I don't know, it was like 20-30 Ks where it was just a steady decline, and we hadn't had that the whole trip, and it was just such a fun ride, especially being on cloud 9 as I was after getting up that hill. It was just ecstatic the whole trip. So I definitely think this was one of my favourite days.
Hell yeah. Another one. Hello, beastie. Do you want to get it out?
Been down one time, been down 2 times.
Of course, we got lost a handful of times as per usual, but I actually kind of think this was a good thing. It meant we rode into town right as the sun was setting, and isn't that a nice way to get all the happy chemicals in your brain pumping?
You don't know what it means to win.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Paula?
Paula?
Yes, nice to meet you. Before we knew it, Ivano found us and took us into his beautiful family home, where we also got to meet his wife, Paola.
Amazing, like, hospitality, letting us stay in their, like, really cool place that was in this kind of, like, valley.
They even brought out the measuring tape because they wouldn't let me sleep in anything shorter than myself, which is quite funny.
Upon seeing my rather unflattering shirt that I'd been wearing every day, Paola instantly looked at it and said, let's get some washing done first. Funnily enough, I'd tried properly washing this shirt one other time on the tour, and normal detergent did nothing. And clearly she went into full, like, Italian nonna mode and dumped it in a bucket of bleach instantly. But, as per usual, we were hungry. Like, really hungry. So we asked, is there any places around here we can grab some food or grab some groceries? To which we were instantly told, no, don't be silly, we've got food ready for you here. So, as we took a seat out front, there waiting for us is these just like gorgeous platters of tomato, cheese, fruit, bread, beer and wine. We were spoilt. This was some of the best food I'd ever enjoyed. So, after eating it, we said how thankful we were and how amazing the food was, but that's where things got even better. Paola looked at us like, what do you mean thank you? That was just the entree. And then she comes out with an entire dish of lasagna, like the most amazing, hearty, authentically Italian lasagna I'd ever eaten. And we couldn't get enough of it. I was well fed and satisfied at this point. But they weren't letting us get off that easily, because right as I thought we were done again, she comes out with an entire homemade tiramisu. They say no one does food like the Italians, and now I understood why. Some final guests in their daughter and her partner arrived, as a wonderful night of food and wine assured. One of the best sleeps we could ever hope for lay ahead. So leaving the Italian mountains was always going to be quite sad.
Have a nice day.
You too. Bye, ciao, ciao.
But luckily for us, we had the best tour guide to lead us out possible, Ivano. He told us he'd join us for the first 30 kilometers or so as we descended out of the hilly terrain.
So Ivano took us down this really lovely route. He told us exactly where to go and what we should go and see, which was really cool.
I know the penny will drop, the mass will slip, the music will stop. There are tears on the microphone, I'm so afraid if I get found out, do I still get paid?
The ride was absolutely gorgeous, of course, and as we said our goodbyes, it really felt like we were entering the final leg of our journey.
Is that in Trento or?
Trento, sì, and then Trento. La Vis and then Trento.
But this came with an issue I hadn't been factoring in. Once we left the cool heights of the Italian Alps, Italy was hot. Like, properly sweat-inducing hot.
One things that I did notice when we left the mountains was it just got insanely hot. So the ride out of the town was pretty much a steady decline, and then we got to the bottom and the heat just hit us like a ton of bricks. It was so different from being at the top of the mountains.
It was kind of a shock to the body how quickly this weather shifted. So now, our water requirements went up a few grades. While we dealt with that, the next issue from the heat was that it put all of us in different physical and mental states. So, while Kelly and I pulled over to have some lunch and just a break in general, Riley said he still felt good to go and told us he'd ride on to where we could meet him later on.
I want some downtime, so call me when you can and I'll be fine.
Ended up getting separated a little bit, and we talked about a little bit about wanting to like do some solo stuff, or I think I had wanted to practice, like see how I would go doing some of this on my own.
We hit the town, we have separate lunches because Riley's looking for food that's adequate for him, so we end up riding on without Riley. This was probably the first time where it was just me and Vincent riding for quite a little while, and I could not keep up with Vincent's speed. It was pretty brutal for myself, especially with the heat.
The black is sounding about a little bit weary. Probably feels like I do.
And so when we kind of got separated because we wanted to have different things for lunch, I was like, oh, let's just cycle solo for a bit. We can meet up later.
Later on ended up becoming much later as Kelly and me struggled to play catch up. Maybe partially because of a dinner pit stop, along with some extra Milka indulgence.
Milka product number 435.
okay for Milka standards. Milka rating 6.3. Regular rating 7.9.
The cruelest curves, they run so deep.
We were just saying how when we first saw big hills on our way into Czechia, we'd stop literally every minute, 5 minutes, to pull over and take pictures of the mountains. And now we're surrounded, and have been for the last like 4 weeks, by the most gorgeous mountains you've ever seen.
In a fucking valley.
In the middle of a valley.
With all this vineyard around.
Vineyards next to us. And we're just kind of taking it for granted at the moment. Yeah. Well, I feel like I definitely am. So yeah, here's to appreciating when things are pretty cool.
But as sunset and Riley was still a solid 20 kilometers ahead of us, we kind of just settled on the idea of us finding our own spots to sleep and meeting in the city of Verona the next morning for breakfast.
Potentially a castle or a random hut incoming for sleep.
Yeah,
and
bus shelter or castle.
Yeah.
No in between.
So literally like a minute after we just said we're about to go 10k's to a castle.
You could probably turn around and...
Yeah, look, we just filmed right there. And somehow the most glorious hut in the world appeared right around the corner. It's going to leave a bit of extra work to do tomorrow, but beggars can't be choosers. This is pretty good.
So we kind of knew we wouldn't be able to find anything as good as this, even if we tried. So Kelly and me settled in for the night.
The boys are split up, sleeping in a random hut. The Dolomites have been conquered. Now it's just on our way to Rome.
And just like that, for the first time in 7 weeks, the three of us were spending a night not together. It was an odd feeling, but also not a worry. The actual worrying incident was still about 16 hours away. Would you look at that? No Riley at the campsite, and we were on the road at 6:30 in the morning, beating our average time of leaving camp by probably about 5 hours.
At day 7 we wanted to catch up with Riley, or actually we kind of wanted to beat him to our next place, so we got up really early. I think it was the earliest we left of the whole trip.
With a solid pace going, Kelly and me made it to the beautiful city of Verona in no time. I'll admit I knew nothing about the city before arriving, so you can imagine my confusion when we stumbled across the fucking Colosseum.
So apparently we accidentally rode to Rome without Riley. Found the fucking Colosseum.
Colosseum tour aside, we wanted to find Riley and enjoy some breakfast together, but it turns out we'd gone past him and he wasn't going to be in Verona anytime soon. So, a cute little breakfast date between Kelly and myself wasn't the worst way to start the day, but fueled up and feeling good to ride again, we felt ready for a challenge. So, we set a fun little goal for ourselves, see how long we can stay ahead of Riley. We had the coolest little way of doing this. We had AirTag trackers in our bikes that I could just keep on checking.
So according to the AirTag that I have in Riley's bike, he's just under 10 kilometers behind us.
So we deliberated about going back to find him, but in the end decided to stay ahead of him a little longer. But with some interesting off-roading coming up and my phone on low charge, I just put my phone away in my back pannier and left it plugged into my portable charger. This decision would end up having some horrendous consequences, because at that very moment, Riley was going through hell.
Currently, on Riley's solo adventure, we're on the hunt for a toilet and for water. And if there happened to be some gelato or something accompanying them, then I wouldn't complain.
I was on my own and I had no real idea of where Kelly and Vincent were. I hadn't really kept up to date. This was a super hot day. And so I stopped off at a supermarket and I didn't have any pockets. I was wearing my bike shorts and I put my phone down on the sink next to me and then filled up my water, stupidly left my phone on the sink. And so I quickly run back in and the door's locked. And I'm like, okay, the guy's in the toilet. Cool, I'll just wait for him to come out. I'm waiting. Maybe like 4 minutes go past and then finally the door opens. I'm like, thank God, because I'm getting pretty stressed at this point. And there's a different guy walks out of the toilet. My heart just like instantly sunk. And I was like, did you see a phone in there? I asked this guy and he's like, no, sorry, there's nothing in there. And I was like, did you see someone else go in there or someone else come out of the toilet? And he's like, yeah, there was someone who went in and went out really quickly. I realized then what must have happened is this guy who went in after me, went in, saw my phone, and then without actually going to the toilet, instantly just grabbed it and then ran. So Yes, my phone was stolen.
She's calling the head of the police.
Ciao. Ascolta, qui ho un ragazzo che non è italiano e qui in vacanza.
And then I actually started to realize that I was kind of screwed because I would use my phone to kind of pay for everything at this point. I was using my phone for maps. I was using my phone for communication. I was like, I actually don't even know where I am at the moment. So I'm kind of stuck here now. I've been waiting to get help from someone, hopefully Vincent and Luke, but I don't really have a way of contacting them other than sending a friend request on this other person's phone. So if Vincent doesn't reply, what do I do? So now I'm just kind of sitting here waiting. They were nice enough to make me a sandwich, but also the supermarket workers come back to me, let me know that they've actually found the footage. You can't see him take the phone, but you can see him go into the toilet after me and then run out quickly. And so luckily this guy who was there, this Romanian guy, he was friendly enough to help me out. He drove me to the police station.
Roma, Milano, Verona is a beautiful city, but it's a very shit with a country.
Met Lucas, who helped us out a lot, so we can say thanks.
No problem, man.
No problem. Grazie.
Prego.
I was like, sweet, dude, they're gonna ride to this guy's house, bust his door down, take my phone, bring it back to me. But instead, they kind of just called him on the phone. They were like aggressively talking to him in Italian, telling him to bring my phone back. The police officer comes back in, she's like, sorry, he says he didn't take it. I was like, he definitely took it. And they're like, yeah, we know, but we don't actually have proof, so they can't do anything. I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I realized then, I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to buy food. I don't know where Vincent and Kelly are.
Sucks that we're still about 80 kilometers away from Bologna because we found the most incredible sleep spot you could ever ask for. This little hut right here. This door just cranked open right here, giving us this awesome space where you can crack open the windows.
We go through a nice spire-infested off-road track for a little bit, and we find a nice little hut which would be perfect to sleep in, but it wasn't where we were wanting to stay. We wanted to keep going, so we keep on riding.
As noted yesterday, inland Italy is stupidly hot. It felt like we were riding in a fucking oven. So, naturally, the next grocery store we rode past, we pulled over to physically reset and also just get some refreshments. This was when I decided to finally check my phone again for the first time in 2 hours.
So I received a message an hour and a half ago from some random person. Obviously I didn't open it because I just assumed it was spam.
So I responded asking them if Riley was still there, but obviously because it was 2 hours ago, they said he was no longer with them. But soon another message appeared.
We have our answer. Time to give him a call.
This time at least Riley was still with them. And that's because it was the phone of a police officer. So, at least now we were able to still call him at the police station.
I'm stuck, bro. I'm in liminal space.
You're in the middle of Italy, completely. The worst part is, about 2 hours ago, I was checking, using the Apple AirTag. We were only 8 minutes in front of you on bike ride, and we were like, oh, let's see if we can like stay ahead of him on pace.
Oh, fuck you.
The one thing that we do have is the AirTag in your bike. So if you travel to a place where there's like signal and stuff, so usually cities, we'll be able to ride straight to you and know where you are.
Only cities though.
Well, the AirTag needs like some sort of Wi-Fi or signal to bounce off. So if you can go to like a city or something, maybe halfway between us, because it's like 2 hours of riding us going backwards, but maybe we can meet halfway somewhere in a town, I don't know. But then you're in the middle of nowhere with no contact, yeah, which is shit.
After the initial call, Riley was still hopeful that the police would somehow get his phone back. So we kind of just decided, let's call each other again in an hour or so, and hopefully there's some positive news. So, once again, Kelly and me just kind of had some time to kill in the heat of Italian purgatory.
Alright. I guess I'll explain what's just happened. So now I'm still in the waiting room, yes, and they've just given, like, I haven't had access to a phone to let you know anything, so...
Fuck, what have you been doing to kill time?
Bro, they told me not to leave, so I just had to fucking sit here and just look at a wall. I don't know, I don't think they're going to find it, so I'm just going to try and, I don't know, where are you now?
We're still pretty much in the same spot. We were waiting for one more call to see if there's any good news. Do you remember the name of the town that we said we were going to meet halfway?
I don't know, Bossetto or something like that.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just try and meet you there.
Maybe see you there in an hour or two. This is just a shit situation, isn't it?
Yep. I don't even know how I'm going to solve it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Take plenty of GoPro footage. That's always meant to be helpful.
I did manage to sneak a little bit.
My guy.
Set up a plan with Vincent. We're like, he'll ride 30Ks and I'll ride 30Ks and we'll meet in this middle area in this town. But obviously I had no navigation tool, so I was just, you know, trying to wing it on my way there.
On one hand, it kind of feels good to be out and riding again after being stuck in fucking purgatory for like 7 hours, but it almost makes me just as mad to think of how fucking useless I was without my phone. I felt like a fucking wob. I couldn't do shit. Very lucky now I'm realizing that I have friends here with me. Not right now, but I'm going to them.
Riz, we're coming for you. It is hot and miserable, but we are coming for you. Let's go.
If I didn't have other people with me, how would I have solved this situation? I have no money, no one I know, no way of contacting anyone. I would have just stuck forever in Vigisoli or whatever the town was called. Maybe I would have started a job there. Started working at that supermarket.
All right, Riley, we've done our part of the bargain. No way of contacting you, but hopefully you turn up at this town and we see you.
Is this what traveling was like? Pre-phone? I can't believe it. How much I was relying on it. Man, phones do everything, don't they? Guess I'm traveling like someone from the 90s. Ancient.
So, once Kelly and me arrived, we waited for what felt like an eternity in the centre of town. But, against the odds, and after 36 hours apart, we were reunited.
I never thought we'd see you again.
The police station, in the end, decided to be more helpful at like just finding the fucking like directions to get me back to you than actually finding my phone.
They gave you money.
I was like, no, I couldn't take it. He just shoves 10 euros in my hands.
Jet.
But they went to all this trouble of like printing out the fucking Google Maps directions
to get to here.
To get to here. But then the map is fucking, I just couldn't make that out really, as you can see. And all the directions are in Italian. And then they did give me destra means right, sinistra means left, turn means squat something, fucking whatever.
Yeah, so I roll into this little town, which happened to be the exact town I was aiming for. So I did do pretty well navigationally. Maybe just not, didn't go quite the right way. Luckily, the first little cafe, not cafe, it was like an Indian restaurant I stop at is Vincent and Kelly. So massive relief to see them again. And they were able to buy me food because I hadn't been able to eat because I didn't have any way of paying for things anymore.
So, after he tried logging into a few things on my phone, it became pretty apparent how difficult it is to do anything without your own phone in the modern world. Every single login requires a verification code to be sent to your phone to confirm that it's you logging in. So now, Riley didn't have access to communication of any kind. He'd lost access to maps, money, plane tickets, or any number of things. What we realized is that basically in this current day, if you don't have access to your phone, you essentially don't exist. So now what? The day was getting late, so we ate some authentic Italian butter chicken and rode off into the night to find somewhere to sleep.
We're in this random town, don't know where to sleep, and we're like, we better use the church option that we have stored with us, which is always like a plan C or a plan D where we go find a church and we just sleep out the front because we don't think we'd get too much hate for doing that, but next to the church was actually a cemetery, which was kind of spooky. It had these lights on, but it was conveniently had a hose tap on it, and underneath was this nicely fitted tub and a hose pipe about 1 meter long which came out of the tap. And out of desperation, because it had been such a hot day, I kind of decided that this was going to be our shower for the night.
You see, we hadn't had a shower or a swim in over 2 days, and the sweltering heat of inland Italy had us feeling and just smelling rancid. So, despite me filming everything on this tour, I ashamedly turned off the camera, and we each turn by turn took the opportunity to sit under this tap, in a cemetery, and have a shower. Did I feel proud? No. But my god, did it feel needed, and hopefully that can be understood.
It did feel like we'd hit a bit of a rock bottom at this point, but at the same time, it was kind of relieving to be like, I don't know, back with friends.
So, after a cemetery tap shower, we set up our sleeping pads on the ground behind a church. To be honest, at that very moment, our outlook was looking pretty shit. We had no idea what our next move was meant to be, but that was tomorrow's problem. After the week we'd had, the only thing that mattered at that moment was getting some rest.
Alone at the edge of a universe, humming a tune for music.